You're born in 1732 on a Virginia tobacco farm, third son of a minor planter, which means the land skips over you before you're even old enough to want it. Your father dies when you're 11 and takes your education with him. No university, no fortune, no name that opens doors. By the time this is over, you will have started a world war by accident, buried an army in the snow, and been offered the closest thing America ever had to a crown, twice. Stay until the end. The man who says no to power is stranger than any man who takes it. Stage 1. The Surveyor, age 16 to 20. Your half-brothers went to Oxford. You go into the Blue Ridge with a compass and a chain, measuring other men's land because you can't afford your own future any other way. You sleep on the ground, you eat what the woods give you, and you learn the one skill nobody can inherit for you: how to read terrain like it's talking. At 19, your brother Lawrence dies of consumption and leaves you Mount Vernon, a house, some acres, and a stack of debts wearing a gentleman's clothes. You're not gentry yet. You're a surveyor with a mortgage and a chip on your shoulder about how birth decides everything. Stage 2. The man who started a war, age 21 to 22. Virginia's governor needs someone expendable enough to carry an ultimatum into French territory. You volunteer, because refusing opportunities isn't a luxury you have. You survive that trip. The next one goes worse. You ambush a French patrol in the dark, a man dies who probably didn't need to, and a private skirmish in the woods becomes the spark for a war that will eventually burn across 3 continents. Weeks later, cornered at a fort you named Necessity, with dwindling ammunition, you surrender. The only surrender of your life, and sign terms in French you don't fully understand, admitting to an assassination you didn't think you'd committed. Stage 3. The one who walked out, age 23. Now you're aide to General Braddock, a British regular convinced that European drill beats American terrain. The Monongahela proves him wrong permanently. French and native fighters cut his column apart from the trees while his men stand in neat lines and die for it. 2 horses are shot out from under you. 4 musket balls pass through your coat without touching you. Braddock bleeds out on the retreat. Somehow you're the one still upright, the one who organizes the survivors and gets what's left of them home. Virginia makes you a colonel at 23 and hands you 300 miles of frontier to defend with almost no men and no money. Stage 4. The gentleman with a grudge, age 27 to 43. You marry Martha, a wealthy widow, and spend 16 years becoming everything your father's death once denied you: a Virginia planter with land, horses, and a seat in the House of Burgesses. From the outside, it looks like the story's over. From the inside, every ship that leaves your dock loaded with tobacco comes back loaded with London's debts and London's taxes, decided by a parliament you have no voice in. Nothing dramatic happens in this stage. That's exactly the point. It's 16 years of quiet compounding interest on a grievance you don't yet know will cost you the whole life you've built. Stage 5. The commander with no army, age 43 to 45. Congress needs a Virginian at the head of this fight, so a Massachusetts riot doesn't look like a Massachusetts riot. And you're the only man in the room who's actually led troops under fire. You take the job with no salary, which sounds noble until you see what's waiting for you outside Boston. A mob with no gunpowder, no uniforms, and enlistments that expire on New Year's Eve like a countdown to the war ending itself. New York falls hard. You retreat through New Jersey with your army dissolving under you day by day, until December leaves you with barely 2,000 men who haven't walked home yet. So on Christmas night, you cross a river choked with ice anyway, because an army that never wins simply stops existing. Trenton is a desperate gamble, and it lands. You learn here that losing battles and losing the war are not the same thing, but only barely, and only once. Stage 6. The general who froze with his men, age 45 to 46. Valley Forge isn't a battle. It's a siege run by weather and by a Congress that can't feed you. Men leave bloody footprints in snow because they have no shoes. A quarter of your army dies that winter of disease and hunger, while you write letter after letter to a Congress that answers with silence. You could billet somewhere warmer. You don't. A Prussian drill master named von Steuben arrives and starts turning your starving farmers into an army that can actually maneuver on a battlefield. And you stay in the cold to watch it happen. You come out of that winter smaller, but for the first time, real. The cost of command, you learn here, is that you cannot ask men to freeze for you from somewhere warm. Stage 7. The victor at Yorktown, age 49. 6 more years of a war that mostly goes nowhere, until a French fleet seals off a British escape by sea in the exact week your army has Cornwallis pinned on a Virginia peninsula. You march exhausted men 400 miles south for one shot at this. The siege takes 3 weeks. When Cornwallis's men march out to surrender, their band plays a tune about the world turned upside down. And for once, the title isn't an exaggeration. 8 years after the first shots at Lexington, the war is functionally over. The cost of this victory is 8 years of your own life, and a private list of names you kept, of men who didn't get to see it. Stage 8. The man who gave it back, age 51. Some of your own officers float the obvious next move, a monarchy, with you at the top. One writes it to you directly. Men have started wars for less than what's being offered to you now for free. Instead, in December 1783, you walk into a room in Annapolis and hand your commission back to Congress in person. Then go home to a farm that fell apart without you. Word reaches King George in London that you actually did it, and he reportedly says that if it's true, you'll be the greatest man alive, having the one chance in history to simply keep what you'd earned, and choosing to walk away from it instead. Stage 9. The reluctant president, age 57 to 65. They come for you again in 1789. A country with a brand new constitution and zero precedent needs one man everyone trusts not to turn the presidency into the monarchy they just fought a war to avoid. You didn't want this job any more than the first one. 2 terms, building the office from nothing. No rule book. Every choice you make becomes the rule. While men you once commanded in the same army turn on each other and on you in the newspapers. By 1796, you could run again and win unopposed. You refuse a second time and go home again. 2 refusals of ultimate power in one lifetime is a cost almost no one else in your position has ever chosen to pay. Stage 10. The last retreat, age 67. Retirement lasts less than 3 years. In December 1799, you ride your own fields in freezing rain, then sit down to dinner in the wet clothes instead of changing, because you don't want to keep anyone waiting. A throat infection closes in over the next 2 days. The era's best medicine, repeated bleeding, likely speeds up the thing it was meant to stop. You die at Mount Vernon with Martha beside you, checking your own pulse as it goes, the same steadiness you carried through every river crossing and every walk away from power. The through line of this life was never the battles. You lost more of those than you won. It's that at every single moment when the ambitious move was to keep what you'd taken, you handed it back instead, twice, in a century when almost nobody in your position ever had. That refusal is the entire reason there's a peaceful transfer of power left to argue about 200 years later, instead of just another crime.